Good morning. Welcome everyone. Thank you very much for joining the Shiur today. Today is another Shiur in Ethics of Our Fathers, Pirkei Avot. And as we learn every Sunday a different chapter in Pirkei Avot, so today we will be discussing Pirkei Avot, the fourth chapter in Ethics of Our Fathers. So basically the fourth Perek has quite a few interesting topics, and we're going to be talking about two topics that have a general effect on our lives, on our lifestyles, and as we'll see today. So the first part in Pirkei Avot that we learn about is Ezahu Ashir Hasameach Bechelko, which is a very famous expression that's brought often. And it comes actually, Ben Zoyma is the one that says it. He was a big Tana in the times of the Mishnah. And he talks about this whole idea of a person that's rich. Who is a person that's rich? That is someone that is satisfied with what he has. And that's a very important lesson that he is coming to teach us. And today we all know that actually the Apple company just achieved more than $2 trillion. The amount of money that the company is worth is more than $2 trillion. And this is an extraordinary amount. Now, how did they become such a wealthy company? How are they such a well-to-do company that's worth this enormous amount? It's a crazy amount. So one of the things that caused Apple to be so successful is because they are part of a culture that's called the upgrading culture, which means every amount of time, it could be a half a year, every year, they come up with a small invention. They come up with a new product, which is not all the time new. It's just a slightly more advanced. And once you have something that's upgraded, you say, well, I can't have iPhone X. I've got to have iPhone XI. Or I can't have iPhone 6. I've got to have iPhone 6 Plus. And so on with many, many products that this company provides. And that's why people are purchasing their products, even though their old product works perfectly. And they don't really need a new product. That's not really helping them. But nevertheless, because they want to be ahead of time and because they want to be all the time up in an upgraded movement, in an upgraded position where they always are ahead of time and they are up to date, that's what causes the company to be worth $2 trillion. So this is exactly what Ben Zoyma is talking about. This Tana is teaching us that if you really want to be rich, you have to be satisfied with what you have. And as we see, the previous generation is, you can see people that can afford, let's say, having a very advanced car, but nevertheless, they use a simple car because somehow the previous generation was able to achieve this ethic easier than we achieve it. So this is something that our generation definitely, because we have so much in our generation, this is something that this ethic can teach us a lot about. And here I want to tell you a small story that actually about a fisherman. This fisherman was a poor person. He used to go every day out to the river and fish. And one day he goes out and he's on his small boat. And he's there trying to wait for a fish. And next to him he sees another guy, a rich guy on a yacht. And this rich guy is sitting out there on his yacht. And he is also fishing. He's waiting there for some fish to come out. And they start talking to each other. And the rich person asks him, well, where are you from? So he tells him, yeah, I live right here. I come every day out here to fish and I enjoy my work. It's very relaxing. It's very nice. So the rich person started to tell him, listen, you must start doing business. Look at me, I've done business and I'm successful. I've got a yacht, I've got a private jet, I've got houses all over the world, and I'm very happy. So you should do the same thing. You should also sell more fish and then create a whole company and make a lot of money. So this poor person asked him, he wasn't poor, but he was a simple person that had what he needed. He asked him, okay, well, tell me, what am I going to achieve by becoming rich? So he tells him, listen, at the beginning, you'll be able to buy yourself a proper ship. You'll be able to employ a few more workers. You will be able to sell a huge amount of fish. So he says, okay, I'll be able to do all of that, and I've got now more money. Now, what do I do next? So he says, well, listen, after that, you can buy yourself houses around the world, and you can travel around the world. You won't need to buy economy. You can buy business or first class. So he tells him, okay, sounds good. Now, what comes after that? Once I've achieved all of that, once I have all these houses around the world and I'm traveling the world, what's next? So he tells him, well, next you can get yourself a private jet. You don't even need to go and travel with the common. You can travel privately. And he says, oh, sounds good, sounds good. What else? And then what is next? What comes after that? He says, after that, you can be so relaxed. You can go out and sit on your yacht, and you can fish calmly throughout the entire day. So the poor person turns back to him and he says, and that's exactly what I'm doing now. So this story teaches us that a rich person is not only a person that has a certain amount of money, but it's a person that's honestly satisfied with what he does. He's happy with what he does, and he's satisfied with what he has. There's actually a famous expression about, in Chassidus it's brought, the expression, Ein ashir ela bedas, ve'ein ani ela bedas, which means a rich or a poor person is only by his mind, which means it only goes according to what he thinks, and according to what he has in mind. Why is that? Simply because it doesn't matter how much money you actually have in your bank account, for example. It matters how much you actually appreciate what you have and you're actually enjoying what you have. So in other words, a rich and a poor person is a mindset. It's not a technical thing. And as we all know, there's always stories about people that could have a lot of money, but they aren't satisfied, they aren't happy. They don't know how to appreciate it. I don't know the exact explanation to it, but of course this ethic that Ben Zoma is teaching us is very important, that we can achieve a lot. We can actually become rich only by changing our mindset. So that we see on the one hand this idea of actually being rich, and the negativity of always upgrading ourselves. That is something bad. It's something that's not good. We don't need to chase all the time physical, material belongings, possessions, and so on. We must enjoy what we have. We shouldn't be chasing whatever's out there. But on the other hand, we all know that there's a famous opinion of Beis Hillel. Beis Hillel teaches us that when it comes to lighting the Hanukkah candles, so we start from 1 and we upgrade. Every day we add 1 other candle until we get to 8 days. And this is also a certain mindset, and it's also brought in many other verses. And it's not only by Beis Hillel, but it's also when they built Beis HaMikdash. So they built it, and whenever they had enough money to upgrade the beauty of Beis HaMikdash, so they upgraded it. It started as a simple, I wouldn't say a simple building, but it was upgraded throughout the years. The menorah also. The menorah started as a metal menorah, and once the Hashmonaim had enough money, they were able to buy gold. Then they made a golden menorah. So we do see that in Judaism and in the ethics, we should also always look to upgrade ourselves. For example, we are now coming into the we're coming close to Sukkot, Chag Sukkot. And we know in Sukkot, one of the things that we do is we buy Daled Minim, the four species, the four types of the esrog that we have, the lulav, the hadassim, and the aravot. Four of those things, always we should look for the best, the most mahudar. We have all kinds. We have from Calabria, which is from Italy, which is the best. If you can get a Calabrian esrog, you've got the best, but that costs a lot. And then you can get simple ones, and you can get, so we see that when we do a mitzvah, it's very important to keep a hidur once we do it, which means we should always look, for the upgraded one, the same as people look for the best iPhone or the best Galaxy or the best laptop or the best camera, whatever it is, or the last Tesla or the last BMW, whatever it is. We should also, when we attend to Yiddishkeit, we should also look at it in that way. And we should also try and achieve and buy and purchase the best lulav, the best menorah, the best Chanukiah. And we should light, for example, the Chanukiah, we should light it with oil, not with just wax. So we see we have these two things, but there's no contradiction at all, and there's probably, it's obvious, because when it talks about, when we are discussing materialism and our physical life, then there's no point in being upgraded all the time. There, Ben Zoma teaches us this ethic of being satisfied with what we have. But when it comes to our spiritual life, we all know how important it is to upgrade ourselves. And that's why when it comes to doing a mitzvah, we should always look how to upgrade that mitzvah and how to do it in a better way, even if it's more expensive. There, Ben Zoma wouldn't tell us, well, be satisfied with what you have. Be satisfied, let's say, with the 15 minutes of Torah that we study every day. Ben Zoma will teach us, and he will tell us to upgrade those 15 minutes. He would say, change it, not 15, go up to 20, and then go up to 30 minutes in a day. Why? Because that's our spiritual life. Our spiritual life always needs to be on the go, moving, upgrading, changing. So this is basically the idea on the one hand, being satisfied with our physical possessions and our physical life, and on the other hand, always looking to upgrade our spiritual life. So that is the first part of Pirkei Avot's Perek Daled, the fourth chapter. And I would like to tell a story of the Rebbe, which is a very interesting story, about a woman that attended Yechidus, private audience with the Rebbe, and she came along with her son. Her son was basically he was misbehaving. He was very bad in school. He didn't study. He didn't listen to his teachers. He wasn't even good friends with his schoolmates, with his classmates, and he wasn't following the system. And as we all know, when you don't follow the system, so the system just throws you out. So this woman came to the Rebbe with her son, and she came to the Rebbe asking the Rebbe for advice how to convince the son to start towing the line, to start taking part in lessons, to start being in touch with his friends. And basically, she pretty much felt like there's nothing much to do about it. So she asked the Rebbe, actually, as she was crying, she cried. And she said, please, I just don't know what to do with my son. I don't want him to leave school, but I don't know what to do. So this son came along to Yechidus, and the Rebbe told him, come here, I want to talk to you. The Rebbe asked him, do you like school? And he says, no. Now, he knew basically how things work, and he was a proper misbehavior, let's say. He says, do you like learning? No, I don't like learning. Do you like your friends? No, I don't like my friends. So the Rebbe looked at him, and the Rebbe said, truth is always a good thing. And this young student, when he heard that, this young kid heard that, it changed him completely. And he describes, he says, this is the thing, this answer of the Rebbe is the thing that opened Judaism and opened Yiddishkeit to me. Why? because it was truth. The Rebbe actually looked and appreciated who he really was. The Rebbe was able to look and find a positive thing about him, where all his teachers and his friends and even his parents found it hard to find, and always used to see, well, he's not part of the studying program, he's not doing well with his friends, so he's kind of useless. But the Rebbe was able to look and see, well, he's saying truth, he's talking truth, and that's why it's something that's worthy to point out and to appreciate. The second part of our Mishnah, it's talking about anava, and we have actually in our Pirkei Avot, Perek Dalet, we have quite a few Mishnayos that talk about being humble. Anava, humility, how actually to achieve this extraordinary midah of anava, and to do it in the right way, because this is something that's tricky in a certain way. Being anava, being humble, is something that it's got to be a lifestyle, and it's hard to achieve this lifestyle. And there's two stories that I would like to share with you. These stories are here to explain why it's so hard being anav, being humble. Well, the first story is about a priest that was known as the most humble person in town. Everyone knew that he's most humble. He always walked around town with his head down, and he was a very nice guy, and he was so humble. Everyone called him the most humble person. The rabbi of the town heard about this story, and something didn't seem right. So he came over to this priest and he told him, well, I heard that you are the most humble person in the town, and in fact in the whole world. So the priest said, yes, you're right. I'm the most humble person. So the rabbi told him, well, listen, I've got a question to you. It says in the Torah, in the Bible, that Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, Va'ish Moshe, Anav Mikol Adam Asher Al Pnei Ha'adama. Moshe Rabbeinu was the most humble person in the world. So how could it be that you are the most humble person in the world? So the priest turns back to the rabbi and tells him, well, you're right, Rabbi. I have the exact same question. How could it be that it says that Moshe Rabbeinu was the most humble person, but on the other hand, I'm the most humble person in the world? The rabbi turns back to him and tells him, if you have that same question, I already have the answer. This story is it's an interesting story that shows us that a humble person is not only a person that says he's humble. It's actually a certain lifestyle, and it's interesting how to achieve it and what does it mean. There's another story about one young person. He was at the age of shidduchim, and he was looking for a wife. And he was looking for a wife, and he got all these suggestions, but he canceled them all. He said, no, this is not good enough for me. That's not good enough for me. So the shadchan told him, listen, you've got to work a bit on being a bit more humble. You've got to work on your humility, because you can't cancel every option, every offer. Well, that young guy says, okay, I'll work on it. Several months after that, that young person calls up the shadchan again. And he tells this shadchan, he tells him, do you have a new offer for me? And before he tells him about the offer, this young guy points out again, he says, well, now I'm not going to be satisfied with the offers you gave me before, because now I'm even more important. I'm humble. I worked on my humility, and I'm a humble person, and I want better offers. So also this story shows us that sometimes there's a misconception about the whole topic of being humble and about anava. And truthfully, the hardest part is actually how could we actually achieve true humility? How can we actually achieve being humble and feeling that actually someone else is worthy more than I am? So there's a famous chiddush of the Alter Rebbe in Tanya. The Alter Rebbe talks in Tanya, and he explains how can we actually achieve this. in a true way, not only in a way that we can do it in a fake way. We can go around and remind ourselves every day, yes, we're not so good, we're not so good. That person there is better than me, he's better than me, he's doing better, he's a bigger tzaddik, he's a righteous person. But in reality, we don't feel that way. We don't actually feel that that other person is better than us. We know what we are worth. And another isn't about not recognizing what we are actually worth. Moshe Rabbeinu, who was the biggest Anav, did not think that he was a cat. He did not think that he didn't give the Torah. He didn't tell himself, I wasn't the one there on Mount Sinai. I didn't give the Torah. I wasn't the person that took Bnei Israel out of Egypt. That's not true humbleness. That's not true humility. A humble person truly acknowledges his values and what he's worth, but nevertheless, he can go and appreciate someone else and feel like he's less worthy than someone else. But how could that be? If I know what I'm worth, if all of us know what we're worth, if Moshe Rabbeinu knew what he was worth, how could he actually feel humble compared to a simple Jew out there? How could it be? So this is one of the most famous chidushim of the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, and there's a whole chapter talking about it. What the Alter Rebbe says is that we don't go according to quantity, we go according to quality, which means we don't check what you do actually, we go according to your potential. Moshe Rabbeinu knew that he has these superpowers, these high powers. And he knew that these powers come from Hashem. And Moshe Rabbeinu told himself that it's not because of me, it's because of Hashem. And if Hashem would have given these powers to anyone else out there, to any other Jew, he would do the same as me, if not better than me. And that's why, although he knew his qualities, and although he knew what exactly he was worth, he also knew that these qualities aren't his qualities, they are Hashem's qualities. And he knew that if someone else would have got these qualities, he would have done better than Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's why he was able to be truly humble. He actually told himself, Moshe Rabbeinu, although you brought Bnei Israel, you took Bnei Israel out of Mitzrayim, although you gave them the Torah from Mount Sinai, although you were the one that spoke to Hashem, nevertheless, those are not your own personal powers. Those are Hashem's powers. And if he would have given them to anyone else outside, they would do the same as you, if not better than you. And that's why he was humble. When he approached another Jew, he knew that this Jew, in potential, is higher than Moshe Rabbeinu. That's basically the true idea of being humble. Being humble is being able to actually understand that each and every one of us here and our surroundings has the potential to be better than us. And if so, we understand that it's possible to be truly humble. I want to tell you a story about an interesting story about the perspective of the Rebbe, also about this topic of anava, of being humble. There was once a person that attended a private audience, and he spoke to the Rebbe, and he told the Rebbe, after discussing his own private issues and whatever he wanted to ask, so he asked the Rebbe a question. He said, I don't understand. The Gemara says, Afilu Poishei Yisrael, even the criminals of Israel, are meleim mitzvahs karimon. They are full of mitzvahs like a pomegranate. Pomegranate, we know, has many, what's it called? It's got many fruit inside it. And even Poishei Yisrael, even the criminals, the Jewish criminals that aren't doing mitzvahs, they still have a lot of mitzvahs. So this person said, well, how could it be? If you call them Pirkei Avot, if you say they are criminals and they are bad people that do sins, how could they be full of mitzvahs? So the Rebbe started to cry. The Rebbe started to cry and he said, I have also a question. But I have an opposite question. My question is, if these Jewish people are full of mitzvahs karimon, they have so many mitzvahs, how can you call them criminals? How can you call them sinners? How can you call them Poisha Yisrael? This shows us that the idea, the way that the Rebbe looked at things in a way where we look at a Jew in a positive way, in his true existence, in his true being, that he's full of mitzvahs. And the question is, how can you call them Poishim? They are good people, they are full of mitzvahs karimah. So that's an interesting thing. There's another story, and with that story I would like to end, about in 770 actually there was a photographer by the name of Levi Yitzchak Freidin. He wasn't an official photographer of 770, but he used to attend many holidays, many Chagim Tishrei that's coming up, and he used to come back to Israel and sell the pictures. And he used to also have these events where he used to present his pictures and present the lifestyle there in 770 and the way that people used to celebrate the holidays, the high holidays, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Simchat Torah, and throughout that whole time. So once he came to this, he did this event once, and when he did this event, there was a guest book, and each there were many other colleagues, photographers, journalists, and many other people that came to this event. One of the journalists left a comment on the guest book, and he left a comment saying, I like the pictures, he says, but it takes me back to the mid-ages. Takes me back to the dark mid-ages. And that's what he wrote. So Levi Yitzchak Freidin, this photographer, went back to the Rebbe, and he brought this guest book and he showed it to the Rebbe. When the Rebbe noticed this comment of this journalist, the Rebbe said like this. The Rebbe said that you must tell him that he's got a strong personality because he's able to go against all the other guests that wrote a positive review. And you must tell him how you appreciate that he has his own opinion and he goes according to his opinion. And the Rebbe said to add another thing and to tell him that in the mid-ages, not everything was so dark. There were also some parts of light. So here we see how the Rebbe encouraged this person and saw a maila in him, saw something positive in him, and made an effort to point it out. And the effect, I actually don't know the effect. The story doesn't tell what actually the effect was on this journalist, but there was for sure some kind of effect. So this teaches us again to see a positive quality in each and every one of us and of our surroundings. Thank you very much again for attending the Shiur today. And thank you again to Raya Meltz for making this possible. And hopefully tomorrow I'll be giving a Shiur. Also, we won't be talking about Pirkei Avot. We'll be talking about Tanya, Igeras HaTshuva. And hopefully looking forward to see you tomorrow. And next week, of course, on Sunday, we'll be discussing the 5th chapter in Ethics of Our Fathers. Thank you very much. Have a great day.